You cannot hold anyone accountable if you have not made your expectations clear. Those two things go hand in hand. There is nothing worse than a person who wants to hold someone accountable, but quite honestly, it's more like miscommunication. And the person's like, well, you didn't say that. That's not the picture I got. That's not my understanding. I wasn't aware. I mean, you can still hold those people accountable, but obviously that is a whole different ballpark, right? Because you're like, oh, well, maybe I just didn't communicate it well, or so forth. And then sometimes when you run into um, CEOs and business owners, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm still trying to get comfy. They're not sure what their expectations are. And if they don't know what their expectations are, is it really fair for you to try to hold somebody accountable when you weren't really clear yourself beforehand? That happens a lot too. So it's very important that number one, we understand that all those things go together. You need to know what you're looking for and what you're expecting out of someone. And then you need to know how to efficiently communicate and express that to the other party really before you can hold them accountable. Otherwise, it's just more like you're just saying some words that doesn't make sense. Some business owners, some CEOs are not sure what they expect. They may know what they don't want, or they may have an idea of what it doesn't look like, or a little peek through of what it should look like, but they're really not sure because we all think differently. You get that VA, you start building your team, and you can give one set of directions, but it really could be interpreted, 4 or 5 different ways. Especially the bigger the task, the more steps that you have. Have your objective. What exactly is it that you're just trying to get out of it? What is just the end goal result that you want? Not necessarily the how to, but just what is your objective? If you're going to have a meeting, what is the point of the meeting? If you're going to hire a VA, what exactly is the main point of them? But we would say, what is their main role? What's their main function? What is it that we really want them to do? And part of this is you can think about your pain points. What is really ailing you as a business owner or CEO, or whichever way perspective you're looking at this. What is really the problem that you're trying to solve? That's one of the main things and one of the main goals you're going to want to communicate to your VA or to your team that you are trying to solve. Whether it is, I'm trying to make more money, I'm trying to make more sales, I'm trying to have more time in my life. um I'm not trying to be bogged down as much. What are your main overall objectives? What are your main pain points that you want solved? Make sure you're clear on those things, and then that way you can express them to whoever's coming on so they have a better idea of what they need to do to be successful in your eyes. Also, if it is something such as a task, explain ideally how you would do it or how you see it going. Now, there are tasks that you really are very expert at. You know how you would do it, you know how to do it. It just takes up more of your time, so you just want someone else to do it. In those cases, you should have a SOP set up. You should have tested your SOP. This is how it works. You have very little room for gaps and things to fall through the holes. Now, there's other things that you may not be quite as an expert in. And in those, you want to make sure you have an ideal of how you will go about it. But because you're not the expert, you do also need to leave room for the other person to put their expertise in there and say, well, step one, step two is good, but what I think I would do here is step three is XYZ. So always have an ideal of how you would go about it, how you think you should go about it, but if the reason why you're bringing on this person is for their expertise, you do want to leave them room to actually put in their expertise and put in their information and how they would do it or how it has been successful for them, because that is one of the main reasons why you're bringing this person on. Another thing that I find with expectations is just communication. People have different communication styles. I have had people come to me and say, I want someone who's very good at communicating. What does that mean? I mean, what I perceive as a person that has good communication and what you perceive as somebody who is good at communicating can be two totally different things. So you have to get that specific on what it is that you want. Do you need someone who has good turnaround time? And what is good turnaround time? Does that mean you want someone to get back with you during what is the norm business hours within 24 hours, 8 hours? What does that look like to you basically? How do you like to receive feedback? Some of us don't like to receive feedback all the same kind of ways, and we don't receive it the same way. So sometimes it's actually good just to ask somebody, what is the best way for me to give you feedback? Some people may be like, you know what, I need you to write it down and send it to me first, and then we can follow up with a meeting. That gives them time to digest it where they don't sit here and feel like they're being attacked. Some people just are like, it doesn't matter to me. I want you to just tell me as soon as possible so I can fix it. But in this world of business, you're going to have to be able to receive feedback. And I do find that it's very helpful if you ask somebody, what is the best way for me to give you feedback? Because our intention is not for someone to be so in their feelings that you have to put a pause on your work. um but you do obviously want to be able to tell them, XYZ may not be working for me. What are some solutions we can do? And just depending on the personality traits that you have, it could go in so many different ways. So I do feel like that's an important conversation to have with your clients or with your new team member. Some people know, some people don't know. And if they know, they will tell you. And if they don't know, they may be like, I never thought about that. And if they don't know, that's fine. That's something you can watch out for, because as you have to give constructive feedback, then, you can just kind of paste that and see. And it is a two-way street. So, both parties really should know what's the best way to give feedback, because sometimes the way they give it to you is not the way they want to take it.
I agree with learning who you are teaming with and who your VAs are, right? You have to learn their personality. Everybody, as Lovely stated, communication is different and can mean different things. I'm a direct person. If I am doing something wrong, I just want you to tell me. I don't want to beat around the bush or I mean, I'm here for constructive criticism, but I know I'm just a straightforward person. But if I bring on a team member, I know that I will have to dial it back a little bit until we got to know each other to see if our personalities can relate for me to be as direct as I am, or for them to feel that they're comfortable enough to be direct with me, right? I'm a pretty laid back person, but I still receive things and just, Shante, no, don't do it like that. If you try it this way to be better, right? Where somebody else may feel that's harsh, you need that technology, right? Because you guys have to communicate one way or another. I know I use ClickUp. So in ClickUp, I can go in and I can see what if a team member is on, if my VA is on, my intern is on, and I can see if they went into a task, right? Because you do have individuals that just come in and they're not sure. They don't understand, but instead of reaching out to you in that task or to see the time that it took them to do that task, however, you have that technology set up, that is another way of holding them accountable, right? Because then they're going to know that, right? Okay, if I go into this task, they're going to know if I've been in it and how long I have been in it and if I have completed it by the due date. So I do believe the technology is very, very important as well. to hold them accountable.
Having a tool in place is extremely helpful. But you can have the tool in place and you didn't put a due date and someone didn't have it, you still can't hold them accountable.
True.
And those are the reasons why I sit here and I go back to the very beginning, because I find that a lot of people miss that part on the accountability, which, you know, is the expectation. It's not clear. Maybe the expectation wasn't even clear that we are all going to use one platform, which is our project management, and we're going to use this for tasking. And then if you have communications, then you would need to do that, which would actually turn into an SOP. But the reality of it is, if you don't know your expectation, you can't communicate that. You can have the tools. You can say you're making SOPs, which just writing a list of what you think is not an SOP. Um, but it's still not going to work, because those expectations have to be clear, and it really should be from the time that VA accepts the position or the team. um that partnership is made, I should say, that collaboration. Also want to make sure it's clear what this person is responsible for, what they and how much of it that they are responsible for, because that is also one of those big expectations that can be really, okay, well, are you doing this or am I doing this? And that can even go with the business owner. How much of the business owner are you doing of this task? How much of it that you expect me to do it? So all those go into expectations. So it's just, if you can get your expectations pretty clear, then you're going to find it a lot easier to have these conversations about accountability and how to hold them accountable. After you have put your expectations out there, is clear, they seem clear, you have had your systems, your processes in place to make this streamlined. Now, how are we really going to hold them accountable? So I would say you should have some way of also measuring um, how successful your team or your VA did to either help your pain point get clear, help the objective, meet your goal, basically. This can be qualitative, this could be quantitative. But you do need to have some type of way of measuring the success of your team member, your VA. And I think that is also very important. So that's another system that you would want to try to develop, to see, okay, I hired this person for XYZ reason. Is my reason being met? If it's a revenue reason, that's usually pretty easy to measure. Hey, are they bringing in the sales that I wanted? Which, there's some other stuff we can say about that. It's not always black and white. But for the sake of this conversation, are they bringing in the sales that I wanted? Are they, you know, uh, alleviating XYZ amount of time that I was really after? Am I able to just leave my business and know that it's not going to just come crumbling down when I come back? So all of those are different ways that we can actually measure the success of the collaboration that we have partnered with. So you need to have a way of measuring. Once you have a way of measuring, then you can start holding them accountable, and it doesn't seem so personal. I'm going to just put that out there, because I feel like if you don't have a way to measure, um, you know, if I was to go to Shantae and just say, I'm not feeling this anymore, and I don't really have any quantitative reasons. I mean, you can always end a contract for, in most cases for any reason, but, you know, it will be a lot better way to go through what I would say your next system, which is your disciplinary action process. They know it's coming. They know what they can work on. They can know if you just weren't a fit because for whatever reason you guys just aren't getting clear, even with every all of the steps of the systems in places, the expectations, you're just still not getting clear. um but you want to have some way to measure so they can also feel good. I know I want to feel good, like I'm bringing the value that I said I was going to bring, and I want to have some way of measuring that as well.